Galloway, and the mother of all talk shows. Join us at the College of Knowledge, where there are no tuition fees.
So we thought we'd talk to a man who has studied the impact of sanctions, the impact on the receiving country and the impact on the imposing country. And he is Professor Marcello Ferrada de Noli. He's a Swedish professor of epidemiology and chief editor of the Inditer, founder of Swedish Doctors for Human Rights. The Inditer sounds like a formidable publication. Professor, thank you for joining us. Who should we indict first? Would be many people's question. But how do you evaluate the impact of these truly extraordinary sanctions that have been imposed on Russia? 6,000 sanctions are now in place on the Russian economy. If you want a yardstick for that, there are 600 sanctions currently imposed on the government of Venezuela. Tell us, Professor, how do you evaluate these?
Well, you know, George, we are living times of war, and all main news and our everyday imagery is invaded of episodes happening on the war fronts. So one first association, let me tell you this, that I got when I received the invitation to this show, the mother of all talks shows, inevitably, the association arising, my recall, was the mother of all bombs. That was a powerful artifact that the United States thrown in Afghanistan, as you remember. You know, yes. It was so powerful that according to the reports at the time, I heard that on American TV, the earth-shaking waves were felt intensely in the perimeter of miles away, the epicenter of the explosion. Now, answering to your question, yes, the impact of the bombastic economic sanctions that the United States and its clients in the European Union thrown against Russia is now reaching intensely and increasingly the economies in the vicinity of the intentional target, meaning the economy of the Russian Federation. So that has had an impact felt and increasingly seriously in the European countries. So another automatic association I got with this item was for me to recall that even if the United States and NATO has at disposal that, what I name it, the mother of all bombs, the Russians, for their part, developed one of its own. That is a bomb reputed to actually being 4 times more powerful than the Americans. They have a blast of impact of 44 tons or whatever, TNT. And that is known as the father of all bombs. So there is a dynamic here too, you know, using this allegory. Sanctions are intended to decimate the economy of the Russian Federation, but the things are actually acting as a boomerang. There is a response that we might be expected from the Russia, but the sanction itself, they are hurting and very badly the European economies. We have this in terms of inflation, we have in terms of touch of gas, coal, and oil, and benzene prices. They are rocking up, etc., etc. Well, what I mean
so
it's
the mother. It's the mother of all boomerangs, Professor. Let's look at Germany. I mean, Britain, which depends less on Russian oil and gas, has petrol at almost £2 per litre. I've just bought some. Almost £2 per litre, 1.92 per litre, which for the old-fashioned among us is a price of £8.5 per gallon. This is in Britain, where our dependence is less. But Germany is where the dependence is greatest. And they have a coalition government with no great stability about it. How do you think it will impact on Germany?
Well, it would impact very much in Germany, not only Germany, in Italy too, and all those countries that they have a high dependency of the Russian oil. In general terms, is 40% of the natural gas is coming from Russia. Now, you mentioned this in Germany. There's a coalition government. They have the Greens, part of that government. They are being high in their agenda of the environmental agenda, and now with this crisis, they are thinking to resort to the old nuclear based energy providers, and that will
and coal
and coal. Yes, exactly. And now. Well, about the coal, we have these sanctions, the new sanctions from the European Union. They would also cut the imports of coal from Russia. But the question is, where are they going to get, the alternative coal and the natural gas, etc. They are not prepared for that. And what they were prepared was to implement the Nord Stream 2. But that after the pressure of the United States, they cut the possibility too. So they are just starting, the fall, the economic fall, the crisis just starting in Europe, and not only Germany, I insist. Then
yes,
we have also
a very good point. There are many European countries vulnerable, and as I said earlier in the introduction, the Austrian Chancellor is flying to Moscow tomorrow to meet with Putin. Have you any idea what that's about?
No, actually, but the thing is that those talks can be converted in that Austria could be a new factor in trying to bring about talks and understanding between the conflicted parties. That is one derivate that I believe that it could result of this visit. We know that Austria has been very reluctant to or even opposing the mainstream agenda of the European Union, which is actually the United States agenda. Without these people fully understand what is going on, you see, this is about Germany, for instance. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the war was started by Ukraine, or those who were inciting the war for 8 years ago, and then they were sure or pretty sure what was going to happen if they were going to conceal to Russia that actually they were not. They did not have intentions to admit Ukraine in NATO. They said to Ukraine in secrecy, "We are not going to get you inside NATO," but they kept repeating the opposite to Russia. So they were provoking this war. So the plan of the United States was so clear from the beginning. And in this plan is what I mean. In this plan, I think that it was also the weakening of the German economy, because the German economy is the strongest in Europe, and with all those situations, is going to suffer. Not only the economy is going to suffer, their political standard, and on top of that, now they are increasing their military budget, and all that is going to have a very severe impact in their economy and in their lives at all, and that. Who's going to be the winner of that situation? Of course, the United States. So there's a lot of measures that the European Union is promoting without really thinking what would be the consequences for their own peoples. And sanctions, sanctions, they are not. There is not an equation. The sanctions and results, and they're going to destroy this government. Well, that is not so. We have Cuba. During 54 years, the United States have been imposing economic sanctions against Cuba, and there you have Cuba still standing. You have 56 years of sanctions against the North Korea government, and there you have the North Korea government, sending, propelling rockets of intercontinental dimension. So sanctions per se might very well, as you mentioned yourself, converted in a boomerang for those who were throwing them. They have consequences, and those consequences are unpredictable in many cases. We know that by history.
Professor de Noli, thank you for joining us on the Mother of All Talk Shows. Much obliged to you. Now, the Mother of All Talk Shows is expanding again.